Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, fellow Toastmasters, and esteemed members of Toastmasters International, a very warm welcome to this Toastmasters Division G monthly workshop. I'm Titin, and I have the honor of serving as your host for today's session. And throughout the session, we will have the privilege of hearing from our keynote speaker, distinguished Toastmaster Alexandre Matte, the first runner-up in the Toastmasters International World Championship of Public Speaking 2022. With the title today, The 7-Minute Hero, How to Captivate Your Audience in 6 Easy Steps, which I myself is very excited to learn. And we are very much grateful to have you here, distinguished Toastmaster Alexandre. And as we move forward, later I encourage each and every one of you to be active participants in this workshop. Take advantage of this opportunity to engage with our speaker and then ask questions, share your own thoughts and experiences perhaps. So let's embark on this journey together, make the most of this fruitful opportunity to learn. Without further ado, let us commence this workshop by welcoming the first runner-up in the Toastmasters International World Championship of Public Speaking 2022, distinguished Toastmaster Alexandre Matte. I think we need to wait for a while. It's good for a while. So how are you all today? I believe you have a fantastic evening in Indonesia and Malaysia time. If you are not in this time zone, then you may have a different time, maybe morning time or afternoon, which we welcome you very much in this workshop.
Is there anyone from USA or Europe? I think no.
Perhaps not yet.
Yeah. Saurabh Sethi, are you from India?
Hello. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, because looking for your name, yeah. Sethi. There are so many Indian people named Sethi. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. India is a nice place to visit, right?
Depending on the place.
Now, how is India? Is raining season or what?
Like India is like developing country. Like it has lot of states, lot of cultures. Basically, there is lot of diversity.
Oh, diversity. Yeah. So, so many tribe there, yeah? How many tribe you have? 50 or 100? Like, you know, like in Indonesia, we have many tribe, you know?
Trap meaning?
Yes.
Tribes.
Yeah. My pronunciation usually I will correct it by Toastmaster Amran.
I believe our keynote speaker, DTM Alexandre Matte, is ready. Yes, let us welcome him with a round of applause. DTM Alexandre Matte, the screen is yours.
Alexandre Matte. Oh.
Voilà. Am I here?
Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry about that. I was in another city in the last week. When I came back home, I forgot to plug things back into the wall. So right now, one light is turned on and the other one is not plugged in yet. I can plug that in a few seconds, and you will see the other side of my face a little better. But it's a pleasure for me to be here with you, Division G. And thank you so much, Titian, for the invitation. It was many months ago. And I must say that um, even just 2 weeks ago, maybe, Titian sent me another message reminding me, just by the way, is this still in your calendar? I said, of course, I will not miss it. I will be there. I put it in my calendar many, many months ago. It was almost a year ago, right, that you invited me. And finally, the day has come, and I realized, oh no, I forgot to put my things back on. So I'm sorry about being late, but we can still make this a great workshop. Hopefully a very worthwhile workshop for you. And let me share this to start. This is in Mentimeter. If you want to take out your smartphone, you can scan this QR code and play along by voting or by sending questions in the application. And I'm going to see all these reactions directly on my own smartphone as we go along. So I'm going to make a test in a couple of minutes. But before I do, I need to let you know, I suppose, why I'm here. Mention that I've made it to the international speech contest in the world final last year, and if I was able to make it to the world final and get the title of first runner-up, it's not by chance. I worked. I was participating for about 13 years before I could get to that level. And I do remember that the first year in 2009, I still was a fairly new Toastmasters member, and I thought I knew what I was doing. In fact, I thought I was a really, 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 really good speaker. But in fact, I was just doing anything, just trying something and seeing, is this going to work? And for a few years, that's how I worked. I thought, okay, let's try a speech, get feedback, and then try it again. But it's only when I started studying one thing in particular that I really got to know how to make a winning speech, a speech that really reaches your audience and makes a difference. So let me ask you this, and we can test this question, test Mentimeter. I'm asking you, as I did last year, making my best speeches ever, would you like to create your best speech ever? We've already got a few votes from the last time I delivered this a couple of days ago. Let's see if we've got more yeses than nos. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to get a little glass of water while you vote. Yes, yes, yes. Good, okay. Sometimes I ask this question and I get a no. Well, once I asked the question, I got one no. And was really curious. What makes you say you don't want to create your best speech ever? Maybe because they already did. It's possible. don't hesitate to use the chat during this workshop as well. The ET, maybe the no was a mistake. They misclicked. Well, I'm glad that you want to create your best speech ever, because if you didn't, then we could end the workshop right here and we could just do some table topics. But since you do want to create your best speech ever, let me tell you how I was able to do it. And it started when I was participating in the speech contest in 2012, and I did have my speech coach at that time, Mark Hunter, the 2009 world champion of public speaking. Just by a show of hands, who has heard of or seen Mark Hunter, the 2009 world champion? He's from Australia. And let me just write in the chat the title of his world championship speech. Or if someone has, oh, wait a minute, this can be a quiz. If someone remembers the title of his world championship speech, write it in the chat. Let's see if someone remembers that. Because I do want you to go see it if you have not. For me, it's my favorite world championship speech, an absolute example of what you can do with what you can do with the emotions of the audience. Bring them up, bring them down, make them laugh, make them cry. If you have a message that you want to share with the world and really resonate with them, the way that you do that is by doing that sort of roller coaster ride with your audience. The title, Hazard, is A Sink Full of Green Tomatoes. Well done. You can search that on YouTube later on. How do you get that roller coaster of emotions to really connect with your audience so that when you come to the message, that your audience is already with you and wants to do whatever you're going to ask of them? How do you make those emotions come out? Does anyone want to answer in the chat? How do you create that deep emotional connection? There are various good answers, and I'll try to englobe it all in one answer. It could be expressions, body language in the chat. To create that deep emotional connection, the best way to do it is through a well-told story. A well-told story. So if you start by sharing your story, and you've seen this in probably in most World Championship final speeches, they share a personal story, right? And that's how you can really connect with them. But some stories are better than others. How do you make that better story? Well, you can take hints from great stories that already exist and that have existed for many, many years, for many hundreds of years. Let me show you one book that is a perfect reference for what I'm going to share. I've got the French translation here. Joseph Campbell, Le héros aux mille et un visages. Or in English, the original version, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. This is a great reference for storytelling. He wrote this in the 1940s, so it's almost as old as Toastmasters. What I'm talking about is the hero's journey. Quick show of hands, or just write a Y. How do you do a Y? Like this? No, Y, like this. Write a Y in the chat if you've heard of the hero's journey, or N if not. and I'll show you on screen in a few seconds what it is. And when Mark Hunter told me about this in 2012, at first I thought, okay, sounds interesting. I might have searched it in Google. Okay, what is this really? But I never really researched it until a few years later when I launched my own storytelling career. And it was absolutely transformational because I could not only understand what makes a great story, but also why some of these great stories that exist work, because they have this similar pattern of various steps that the hero or main character takes during their journey. And let me show you those steps. And maybe, like me, you might feel a little intimidated. When I first saw this, I thought, wow, this is way too complicated. Because it's got 12 steps. Feel free to take a screenshot if you want and read it later. But what I want to do today is take this hero's journey and condense it into only 6 steps. When I was trying to apply the hero's journey to my own speeches, I did a whole a table, a grid, and I wrote all these steps and tried to insert in that page all the different parts of my story. I did not manage to have 12 of them, but I did get, what's this, 10, 10, which was just enough to make a great story. But later on, after that, I wanted to see what is the minimum that is needed for the hero's journey to be effective. And I've condensed it, as I said, in 6, and here they are. I'll show you a concrete example. Before we start looking at these particular steps, I should mention, I did mention it once, the hero is the hero is the main character. And in most cases, when we deliver these speeches, these contest type speeches with Toastmasters, the main character will be yourself or whoever is speaking. Right? Let me just ask, someone wants to say in the chat, is there anyone, let's say in the past, in the history of the World Championship of Public Speaking in the past 20 years or so, is there anybody who won or who came top 3 who did not use a personal story? I can't recall. I've been trying to remember really older champions, and even those who were not mainly personal stories, they did have personal stories in them and they had their own development. So there was still a journey of the hero. So here it is. Let's look at each step separately, but quickly, because then I'll show you an example coming from my own championship speech. We start with go to the left, everyday life. The normal life. What is it like for the hero at the beginning of the story? Before anything begins, the hero is seen in their everyday life. The second step is the call to adventure. Something happens. Something happens and the main character must do something. It's an initiating incident. Sometimes it will come from within, and sometimes it will come from without. So it can come from their own desire for something, or something moves them. Something moves them to go on an adventure. Then, of course, if the hero goes on an adventure, we have 3 adventures and difficulties where the hero lives the adventure, faces difficulties, makes friends, and makes enemies. So it can become a difficult but a personal journey. The next step is a logical follow-up of the adventure and difficulties. It's the great challenge. This is where, and sometimes it can be a fight. I'm putting this in quotes, fight with the main enemy. So the 4th step, the great challenge, the hero faces a great challenge, the greatest challenge yet, and surmounts seemingly impossible odds. If you watch an action movie, for example, you'll see the main character, sometimes the superhero that faces the main big mean person, the anti-hero. Does anybody watch superhero movies or action movies? And even if you don't, Yanta, for example, if you don't, you can appreciate that these superheroes, there's all these magical elements, but there's always at the end that big final showdown. And that's the great challenge. But it doesn't mean that you have to have and we'll have some examples later on. It doesn't mean that you have to have this big physical fight. Sometimes it's just a dialogue that you have with someone else in your own story. But there must be something that makes the end of the adventure more difficult than the beginning. And by going through that adventure, the hero, person telling the story, if they're their own main character, they are transformed. That's step number 5, transformation. The hero experiences the benefits of going through the great challenge. And because you've been transformed through that experience, this is the perfect moment. As you are talking on stage or on screen to your audience, this is the perfect moment to share your wisdom. Last step, sharing the wisdom. The hero shares wisdom. Why? To improve the world. Okay. So up to now, is that clear? Can I get a yes or a no in the chat? Is it clear? Or just a Y or N? And if there are any questions, I can take some at this time. I did get a comment in the Mentimeter chat also. I want to create my best speech ever. Good. All right. So now that we've got these 6 steps, and by the way, I'll let you know how you can get that as a PDF file later on, or I could also put it directly in the chat. What do you think? Yeah, because we might need it right now for what we're going to do in a few minutes. So let me just find this. In my files, excuse me. Yeah, here's the PDF. Okay, yeah, that'll be good. Here, I hope that for Dina and everyone else, as you click on this, you'll have the PDF. You can switch between Zoom and that file, so you'll have more. You'll be able to look at it closely. Now there's a question from Saurab. Transformation in step 5 is enlightenment, right? Yeah, that's another way of saying it. When you learn something, it's like a big moment of realization. Something happens and you have that experience, you learn something, you are different. And if we call it transformation, enlightenment is a good word too. It's because the main character, the hero, is different at the end than at the beginning. So when you're looking for your own great story, you can ask yourself, when I went through all this, was I acting differently at the end? Was I thinking differently at the end? Did I start doing something that I did not before? Did I stop doing something that I was doing before? Is my life better because I went through this adventure? If the answer to these questions is no, I didn't really change, then it might not be a life transforming story, which is okay. You can still tell those stories, but it might not be something that really moves your audience to action. That's the main idea behind finding a great story, because after your transformation, you're sharing the wisdom. You have the opportunity, when you take the stage, you have the opportunity to transform lives by sharing the wisdom that you got from transforming your own life. When I first competed in the international speech contest, I was just in it for fun and to win a trophy. But when I started competing in order to change lives and to improve lives, that's when, well, I started winning more often, but I also got more satisfaction from it, because I realized from people who were talking to me after, I realized that I was making a difference in people's lives. That's why I continued competing. Okay, I've got a great question in the chat. And this is a question about particular words. Is it better if the hero is someone else and not the speaker? Because a world champion recommended that approach. Yeah, it's true. You might hear someone like Craig Valentine or Ed Tate say, don't be your own hero. Don't be the hero. Nobody wants someone to be a hero. To me, it's just a question of what words you're using and what those words mean. When I say hero, it's the main character. So in most cases, you will be your own main character of your own stories. It happened to you. When they say don't be your own hero, what they're talking about is don't be the person who gives the wisdom. So when we have the great challenge, we'll see it later on. What I'm looking for, and these other world champions are looking for also, it's that when you get the answer or the reason why you are victorious in your great challenge, the wisdom comes from someone else, not just, oh, I know what I need to do, now I'm going to do it. The same thing happens in great novels or in movies. There's always someone else that helps the hero, that helps the main character. So that's what I mean by the hero. Just a different way of defining the word. Okay, I'm going to now go to the next slide and show the example from my own speech. I do see another question. On the bottom, it says that it's by Alexandre, but that you've seen it by Joseph Campbell, of course, and you've seen this by other people as well. The difference is that I condense it particularly for Toastmasters members. And these are not necessarily the same words as you might see in Joseph Campbell's works, or see on the top, Joseph Campbell or Christopher Vogler. So yeah, here's just a little bit more background. This book is about 500 pages long by Joseph Campbell. And in 1985, Christopher Vogler, who was a screenwriter at Disney, he wrote movies for the Disney company. He took that 500-page book and condensed it down to 5 pages. Just a memo that he sent to the other screenwriters working for Disney, so they knew how to create a great movie by using the hero's journey. So I took that, I condensed it further into 1 page for you here when you're creating a 7-minute speech. Let's see how I used this and created my speech from last year. Can I get a quick note in the chat, a Y or N? Have you seen my World Championship speech? My final speech from 2022?
No.
I'm just curious to see who has seen it or how many of you have seen it. As I mentioned earlier, I created this speech. It was actually a story that I already was giving. It has been a few years. I started telling this speech or a story in 2007. And when I took it again, I recycled the speech to make it for my final speech. That's when I really used the hero's journey model. Okay, a few of you did see the speech, but here it is, all written in just a few sentences. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. If you want to create your best speech ever, you can take a table like this and just write in a few words, just 1 or 2 sentences for each step. What happened in your story, in your personal hero's journey? So we remember these 6 steps that I've written them on the left. And I've got what it is, the step on in the second column. And the third column is my own story, the missing ingredient story. So if you've seen it, you might remember these steps of the story. And if you haven't, then I think you'll still see a description of my whole speech in just 1 page. At the very beginning of the story, the everyday life, we see the hero in their everyday life. And I just mentioned, this is what we've been doing since I was a very young child. I tried a traditional family reunion. This is when I present the characters, grandmama, my grandmother, and Christiane, my aunt, and a central element of the story, the no-bake cake, the cake that we have each year. The call to adventure, the initiating incident, something happens, it's my aunt who leaves us too soon. And because my aunt has passed away, the family struggles to stay together. So there's something that calls me to do something to help the family. And by the way, I can tell you that when I was telling this story before, this particular step, this part of the story, I used to present it as the big adventure, because for me it was the most difficult thing. But in fact, you'll see later on that when I redeveloped this story, it made more sense to do it as you're going to see it here. So the adventure, the difficulties, as I mentioned earlier, an adventure does not need to be very out of the ordinary. For me, it was just, I'm trying to make the cake as my aunt did. But there is difficulty because my uncle Pierre is always there to taste the cake and to critique the cake. And it finally worked after 12 years. So the adventure and difficulties I presented very quickly in my speech. If you go see it again, you'll see that this step takes less than a minute. But the great challenge, it's not about the cake. And I think this is what made my speech better than it was before. It used to be all about the cake. The cake is not as difficult as what I presented here. It's when my grandmama, my grandmother, also left the family. She was the rock of the family, the pillar. So this is when I there's the big hesitation. And there's also a comparison with a parallel story of The Fiddler on the Roof, a very popular movie here. And this is when I wonder if will the family completely crumble? And the transformation comes right at the end of this part of the story when I realize, by thinking about The Fiddler on the Roof, but also about my family and what my cousins are doing, that we will remain intact because of our yearly tradition. So how am I transformed through this experience? There's one particular line in my speech where I say, it's just cake. When you see me deliver that line, you can see the transformation in the character. When I realize there's this big realization and enlightenment that the cake I've been making is much more. It's part of the yearly tradition. And at the very end, after this enlightenment, I share the wisdom with my own audience. I share the wisdom to improve the world by inviting people to keep their traditions going or to create new traditions, because as I say in my last sentence, traditions hold us together. Now, is that a logical example? Does it make it even clearer? Can you write yes or no in the chat? Is it even more clear now with that example than it was before the example? I'm hoping so. Got my fingers crossed, because now it's going to be your turn. Good, good. I see some yes. You can pull out that PDF again, and if you need to, I'm going to put it back here, because now I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes to take a story that you already have, or a story that, so either a story that you've already told, or a story that you've got in your mind, or something that you've never told at all, and write just a few sentences using this model to create the outline of your next story, and perhaps of your next great speech, or your next greatest speech ever. And by doing this in other groups, what I found is that 5 minutes is enough. 5 minutes is enough to write an outline of a great story. Before I start the counter, I would like to see if there are any questions. You can turn on your microphone if you need to, just to see if there's a question. And if there are any questions during those 5 minutes, also I will be here to answer them. I don't think I see any questions. Let me see if I've got something here. No? All right. So I think it's clear enough. I'll start the timer. And in 5 minutes, I'm going to ask someone to share. And let me know if you need to see it bigger, if you want to see my example from my speech.
Guild or to adventure with the difficulties, a challenge.
About 1 minute to go. Okay. Was the music on? Did you hear music?
Yes.
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 Does it help to concentrate?
Not really.
Yes, a bit.
I believe it didn't suit anyone to fall asleep. All are still here, I believe.
Maybe it was a little too calm. Next time I can put some
Yeah,
adventure.
it is very calm, and actually, I kind of like it. It does make me feel concentrate. So
I was challenging myself to stay awake.
No. Next time I can ask which sort of music do you want? Big adventure music or concentration music? And people can vote or even select their own music so that on their computer it will
Something with
select.
action.
I liked the music. I would have liked to have had that page that you referred to with the 3 columns. I
Mhm.
think that
Right.
would be helpful. I went back to look at the 6 steps, so that helped also.
Okay. Yeah, the example sometimes can be useful like this.
Yeah,
Yes.
mind, deeper concentration.
Okay. So let me ask if someone is ready to share what they have. And I'm just asking to share just the outline of the story. We don't need the full story at all.
Yeah, so I could share.
Yes. So who's that? Sorry, I don't think I see.
Lisa. I'm still looking for my example though.
Yeah, it's Lisa Thompson.
Lisa. So Lisa and someone answered in the chat.
So did you
Sarah.
take the example down? Because I'm having a hard time finding it.
Yes, I did. Here it is
Yeah.
again. And Sarah even put it in the chat. If you want to download
Oh, I
it.
see that. Okay, perfect. All right. So in my everyday life, I was suffering from chronic kidney disease, as are 37 million Americans and many more people around the world.
Oh, me too.
600,000 people are living on dialysis, and I was not. And 100,000 people are looking for a kidney, and I was not. And my call to action or call to adventure was that my numbers started going down, and I was sent to a few different specialists. And my adventure and difficulties were just that I was trying to keep my numbers up, but they kept going down no matter what I did with all of the specialists. And my great challenge was that I finally, February 23rd of 2018, found out that I would either need dialysis or I would need to have a kidney transplant. And the fastest way to have a kidney transplant is from a living donor. So the great challenge was to find a living donor. And I had to write my story. And my story was really about who I was and who I would be if I could find that living donor. And so I wrote my story, and in 6 weeks, I had 32,600 views of my story. And a friend of my partner's came through. My partner had shared my story with an email blast to 300 people. And somebody that he was friends with, I had kind of met him once. And he said, if this is real, I'll do it. And he got tested and found out that he was able to be a donor, a living kidney donor, which is a better solution than a deceased donor. First of all, the deceased donor takes a lot longer. Here in New York, it takes 8 to 10 years. The only problem was that he was a B positive, and in order for me to have a kidney, I needed an A positive. So we entered paired exchange through the National Kidney Registry, and they found me a match. I didn't know her. She was in California, I was in New York, and they needed to fly her kidney to New York, and they did, and the surgery was successful. And when I woke up, I felt challenged and transformed. And what I wanted to do with the rest of my life was to help others find their living kidney donors. And so that's what I'm doing. I started a specialty Toastmasters club called Kidney Stories Toastmasters. We're going to be meeting tonight. And we're for the kidney community, but not just for people that are in need of a kidney. We're really there for the 37 million Americans who 90% of them don't even know that they have chronic kidney disease. So our challenge as a group is to help others find out if in fact they're one of the 37 million Americans, and how they can better live their lives so that they don't end up needing a transplant. But if they do need a transplant, how they can find their living kidney donors. And we are sharing the wisdom with the world. And there's a number of us that are advocates on this healthcare platform. And my story appeared in March of 2022 in Toastmasters International magazine, and I used meeting my donor for the first time as my DT, as my high performance level project for my DTM. So that's my story.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Now, thanks, Lisa.
I really
can only
told
assume.
that. I really told that for the feedback from you, so that I could make it an award-winning speech.
Right. And when you say award-winning, do you mean for the International Speech Contest?
Ideally, or just so that people really care about the story.
Yes, great. So here's where it's going to be. Your challenge for this is taking a story that you've already been telling and bringing it to the next level.
Exactly.
I think I'm going to concentrate on the great challenge. So you mentioned the adventure and then the great challenge. My challenge to you is to concentrate on the moment between when you find a donor but it's not the right type, and then when you finally find the other match.
Right. So that was like really easy. That was the easiest part of the whole thing.
Really?
Because the National Kidney Registry did it for me. So the hospital that I was at, New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell, called me and said on August 18th and said, would you like to enter paired exchange? Your donor's already willing to do that. And I said, yes, of course. And they said, we'll call you with a date for surgery.
Okay.
You know, emotionally, I think there might have been more preparation because I was so scared that I would die on the table. And in fact, I herniated 2 days after getting the kidney. So living with this hernia that cannot be repaired has been a challenge as well. It makes the recovery was very, very difficult. And it took a long time.
So Lisa, there are different ways of approaching this. You can, for the big emotional portion of the story, it can either be when you finally get that answer. And by the way, when I say friends and enemies during the adventure, the National Registry is sort of like one of the big friends, the guru.
Yeah, and the National Kidney Registry is definitely a friend. The coordinator was a friend, but I had a mentor that I didn't mention from day one. Okay. So when I first found out, I put it on Facebook, and he helped me to turn my poor me into the story of needing the kidney, and he was with me every step of the way. And he helped me to get a job later with NKR, the National Kidney Registry, as a coach, and I helped over 400 people.
So this person is a very important character in your story, and definitely
right. He got his kidney 6 months prior to me, and yes, we had a friend in common that introduced us.
Okay, so where I was going with the big challenge is try if you put it in the grid like I did, you'll be able to see, okay, what happens if the great challenge is when just before I finally get the answer from the National Registry, or what happens if it is when I find the donor but it's not the right type, just to see different ways of balancing the story. Because I
thought the hardest part was the 6 weeks of trying to find somebody to come forward and say, I'll do it.
Yes, great. So that can be enhanced in your story. See, when we look at this step here, the greatest challenge, the key word here is seemingly impossible odds. So if you really want us to feel how you're going through that great challenge, you can put more emphasis on the hopelessness of the situation. You
Right.
think,
You know, I mean, getting those views, the 32,600 that were required in order to get one person a step forward,
Mhm.
that's the biggest challenge. And that's where, as a kidney coach, I can help my clients to get the views of their story, because nobody really knows how to approach that.
right, right.
That's where all the work goes in.
hmm Now, if let's go quickly to the transformation. Once you go through this, you are helping others to find their own donors as well. So
Yes.
that's where you become sort of the coach for other people, as you have had your own coach. So you're willing to give back to others.
Right.
Now,
He was my mentor, and now I'm their mentor.
right. So another challenge that I'm sending to you is the wisdom. It seems that you're already doing a lot of this for people who directly need it. But what would be
Right.
your message in one sentence? What would be the message that you would give to a general audience if you're just
Right.
presenting to the
To get
public?
about to get their evaluations done, to find out if they're in trouble with chronic kidney disease. So get tested,
Ah,
get
right.
evaluated,
So
know
people,
your
the
numbers.
37 million, a lot of them don't know. Yes. So you might
90%.
have someone in the audience who does need a new kidney,
I always
or
do.
who needs
I always
dialysis.
have somebody in an audience saying that they
Ah.
know somebody, or they themselves are struggling and they didn't realize that they were one of those 37 million. I mean, I
Okay.
bet there's somebody in the audience right now saying that they have had a history of something and they didn't know that there was 37 million that they were part of.
Right. So, in other words, every time that you share this, you might be saving some lives.
Right. Exactly.
And that's why you're doing it. Great. Lisa, thank you so much for that example. Merci.
Well, thank you. I appreciate working with you.
It's a pleasure. Let's go to ET now. And you see, with this first example, we see that you just take a story, something that happened to you, and you can help other people, sometimes saving their lives. So, ET, what do you have for me? Just in just a minute, can you share all of these steps with us?
I'm sorry, before we move on, can you just put that list up? I just want to get a screenshot of it.
Yes, if you scroll in the chat, you will see something from
Oh, okay.
South.
Perfect. Thank you.
You can download it there. Yep. ET, yes. What do you have for us with those 6 steps?
Yes. Can I start now?
Yes.
I have prepared the speech. Okay. Several years ago, I found myself entranced in the routines of my everyday life. An ordinary word, just like many of you. However, within the routine, a persistent call to adventure whispered in my ear. It was an opportunity to pursue a passion that had long been neglected, an invitation to step into the unknown. At first, I hesitated. Doubt and fear clouded my judgment. The comfort of the familiar beckoned me to stay put. But deep down, I knew that real growth lay beyond the boundaries of my comfort zone. In my journey, a mentor emerged, a seasoned individual who had walked a similar path. Their guidance and encouragement become a beacon of light, illuminating the way forward. With their wisdom, I gained the confidence to face the challenges that awaited. The decision to pursue my passion marked the crossing of the threshold. I left behind the safety of the known and embraced the uncertainty of the unexplored. It was a symbolic step that signified my commitment to the adventure that lay ahead. The journey unfolded with tasks, challenges that test my resolve and dedication. Along the way, I encountered allies who shared my vision and enemies that sought to derail my progress. Its encounter shaped my character and taught me infallible lessons. As I delve deeper into my pursuit, I confront my inmost cave, a daunting challenge that forced me to confront my deepest fears and insecurities. It was a moment of self-discovery and realization that I had the strength to overcome my own limitations. The supreme ordeal came unexpected, a setback that threatened to derail my entire journey. It was a moment of intense struggle and doubt. However, I dug deep, drawing on the lessons learned and emerged from the ordeal stronger than ever. With resilience, I reaped the rewards of my journey, a profound sense of accomplishment, personal growth, and a realization of my own potential. Yet, the hero's journey is not complete until we bring these rewards back to the ordinary world. I shared my experience, hoping to inspire others to embark on their adventures. In conclusion, my journey mirrors the universal hero's journey, a narrative of self-discovery, resilience, and transformation. Today, I stand before you as a testament to the power of embracing the call to adventure, seeking guidance from mentors, facing challenge head on, and emerging from old years with newfound strength. May we all find the courage to embark on our own hero's journey, knowing that the most meaningful rewards come from the impact we have on our life and the life of those around us. Contest Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Et. Let me be blunt, if I may. May I? What you've just given us is a perfect example of the steps of the hero's journey. There are even some of these steps that I did not present today, such as the refusal of the call. So here's an advanced tip for you. When you get the call to adventure, the second step, if you want to make an even bigger roller coaster ride up and down, you can add the doubt. So as Et mentioned, at first I doubted, I didn't think I should go on this adventure, but I did. So when you have that, it just makes your story even deeper, because it often happens, doesn't it, that we don't at first answer the call to adventure. We just say, no, I don't think I should do that. It's for someone else. So Et gave us the full steps. So what you've just given us here is all the steps of the hero's journey, but without telling us any story. Because it sounds like something that ChatGPT would write for you. So we've got all these steps, but we don't know what you did. So if you take that, so we'll get one last example. Let's take that, the words that you used, Et, and then in front of each two sentences, tell us what the adventure was. So that this was a good example of illustrating the steps, and maybe even a good way of remembering them, but I don't know what you did. So Et, if you want to tell us a real story, let's do that for next time, all right? And let's try with Yusuf, who wrote in the chat.
Thank you, sir.
And just before you start, Yusuf, are you there? Is your camera on?
Yeah.
Ah, voila. Just before you do start, I'm going to say something else to ET. The way in which you presented with all the energy, that's the sort of thing that we want to see when you tell your story, so that we really feel invested in what you've got to say. But there's the challenge, the big challenge, of course, that I give you is to tell us what was your everyday life, what happened, right? All right. Okay, let's bring back Yusuf on stage. Yusuf,
Yeah.
do you have a personal story for us?
Thank you. I live in an unfortunate family. I was brought up in a very poor condition. But I don't want to stay this way forever. I want to change my life. I want to change my parents' life. So I work really hard trying to get a scholarship to go abroad to work. And finally, I could go to Europe, where I face so many difficulties. The weather, the snow, the culture, the people, the food, everything is so strange for me. I had to fight for it because I know that if I can get over this thing, I can get something in return. I work in a 5-star hotel. It's so strange for me, coming from the village in Indonesia with different things, different culture, different way of cooking. And I had to face my life so difficult. I had to face cooking for 200 people at one sitting by myself. In my country, you will be helped by 10 people, but there I have to work alone. People don't want to help me. They said, it's you, it's your money. At the end of the month, you will get the money, not me. So you work it alone. How difficult it is for me. But this is an adventure of life. I had to face it. I don't want to return back. I had to go on. And I keep on doing that. I faced this problem. And at last, after a few months, I could get over it. And now I transformed to become a new me. I'm not Yusuf from the village anymore. I can adapt myself with the Swiss situation, with the work environment. It seems to me that I changed myself a lot. It's not in terms of skill and experience, but also the money. I could send the money back home to make my parents happy, to change their life. My sharing wisdom is, if you want to change your life, if you have a dream, dream high and try hard to get it. You will get it. If you fail, stand up again and try again. Do it in a different way. You will be successful. That's it. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks for that example, Yusuf.
Alex, you're muted.
Pardon, thanks, Yusuf. I'm going to concentrate on the great challenge. It seemed to me that you skipped over it quickly. After a few months, I got over it and I succeeded. The great challenge of if it is cooking for 200 people, this is completely new. There was someone who said something like, it's your money, you have to do it. So who is that person that helps you get over that challenge? Who is the person?
My chef.
Your chef, okay. And what is it that really makes it that you succeed that challenge?
I try their procedure, how the Swiss people work, how they do the preparation right from the beginning until we can produce a food.
Right, so it's part of it is studying what works, following the example of someone else.
Pardon?
You said that for you to succeed in the great challenge, you needed to look at what other people were doing. Yes. Okay. So there might be something in here that you can elaborate. Spend a bit more time on what you do to finally understand how you can make that work for you.
Yes.
Observing other people, how they are doing. Yeah. Says Sarab. So that's something that you can try. Yes. All right. Sorry, I don't have any more time to give you right now, but I will give you a way for you to reach me, because if you found this useful, there's a way for you to let me know. I'm going to write in the chat a note and a link to an evaluation form, because as you know, in Toastmasters, everything that we do, we should get evaluated. If you click on that, you'll be able to find a quick evaluation form that will help me for my next audiences. And also, at the end, when you're done that form, you have a way to reach me. You can click on my website and get more information on how to reach me, to elaborate more on the hero's journey, but also to be able to find out how you can reach your audience in different ways, especially if you're online. I'm currently helping a few people with their own speech contest, with their own contest speech. They're working on it right now for next year. And there's not you cannot start too early to create your next great speech. So when I asked you at the very beginning, do you want to create your best speech ever? You can start by using the steps that I've offered you today. When you start with this, it's a great outline to then continue to develop it using the feedback from your Toastmasters club, other clubs, or a speech coach that can help you along the way. My friends, it's been a pleasure for me to be here with you today. Please don't hesitate to keep in touch. It's going to be an honor for me to hear more about your own stories, about your own heroes' journeys. Now I hand it back to your new Toastmaster for the evening, Lai. Back to you.
Thank you, Alexandre. Let's give our edu speaker a big hand applause for a wonderful session tonight. Thank you, Alexandre. Before we move on to the next session, we'd like to ask our audience here tonight, do you have any question for our speakers? If you have, please raise your hand and ask him.
May
Yes? Yes, sure.
I? Yeah, I just want to know how based on our life experiences, which one should we pick for the contest? For us to elaborate, how will you choose a topic which share one of our purpose to engage with audience? Maybe the best is up to personal level. Yeah. How did you or how will you do that? Thank you.
Yes. Well, yeah, great question to find the topic and the story that goes with it. You can ask yourself some of these questions. What is the biggest life lesson that I have learned? The biggest life lesson. Try to remember from even your childhood what your parents used to tell you. Sometimes these are the best. The answer to that question will give the best speeches. Or you can ask something like, if I have a megaphone or a microphone that is told across the world, what would I tell them? What is the one message that I want to share with them? And if you start with a message, then you have to find your story that goes with it. So in other words, this message, why do I have that? And if sometimes with just a dialogue, if you speak with a speaking coach or just a friend, your friend can ask, why do you believe this? What experience did you go through that you think this is so important for you? And that will be the story that you can find.
Thank you, Alex. I believe Yanta has had her question answer. Anyone else from the floor? Azza, Susan, Saurabh? Yes, Susan.
Alex, because this is a story into the God of the hero, may I know maximum you told the process into the glory? Because sometimes people like talking too about the process and that glory is just a bit.
Sorry, it cut a bit for me.
Susan, would you like to type the question in the chat box as your voice is a little breaking just now? While waiting, anyone else from the floor? Saurabh?
Hello. Regarding this 6 steps, as it's applied to 5 to 7 minute speech, can it be applied for table topics? Those are short duration, 1 to 2 minutes.
In 2-minute speech, you could apply it. The challenge, the difficulty is that if it's table topics, you have to think of it right then. If you have, I suppose another way of approaching the question is, it works in 5 to 7 minutes. Can it work in 2 minutes? Technically, yes, because you could condense everything and just say, if I take my speech, for example, you saw it in just a few sentences. Now, there are a lot of details missing, but everything is there. So you can still elicit emotions in your audience in just 2 minutes. It is possible. In fact, have you heard of The Moth? I think it's big in the United States. It's another speech contest, but instead of 5 to 7 minutes, you have only 5 minutes to share a story. So you have to go right into the story. You don't have time for audience interaction. You just present it as it is. So it is always possible to put your story in fewer words. So it's still possible. You might need to skip a step, for example, like maybe you go directly into the call to adventure. I was just minding my own business and then this happened. It's so much shorter.
Alex, Susan's question is in the chat box. Thank you, Saurabh.
Okay. How much maximum time percentage of the process story into the glory we shall tell the audience before, how much time percentage of the process, because sometimes there's only a little time left for glory told in the closing. By glory, do you mean that you're sharing the wisdom at the end? Your main message?
She said yes.
Okay, I've given you these steps as a guideline. I don't want to answer that question with precise percentage because it will depend. And also, I've shared you this model, but it is not something that I want you to do always every time. This is a great way to start your story writing or how to develop your story in very little time. But once you start telling your story to different audiences, then you can get a feel for how it develops and how you're telling it. Another way of saying it would be just try different things. Sometimes you'll hear these great speeches at the World Championship where they tell the wisdom right away. I recall it was 1995. The third place winner, who's from my district, his first sentence was the message. He was already sharing the wisdom, and then he went into the story. So even when you got these 6 steps, you can sometimes do some flashbacks, flash forwards, have fun, experiment with the timeline to see what works well with you. So there are different ways of approaching the story. So while I have taken a scientific approach, a very logical way of developing my stories, there is an art also. Storytelling can be seen as a science, but also maybe even more so as art. Try different things, see what feels right for you and for your audience.
Thank you, Alexandre. Alex, I'm so confused. So sorry for that. Then I'd like to say thank you for the wonderful session and the Q&A as well. As we members in Division G would like to present you a certificate of appreciation for your session tonight. Tasha, can you please? Okay.
Merci. Thank you.
So Tasha, can you take the picture? You are doing a selfie as well. Let me take that for you.
I cannot take the picture. Maybe
okay.
someone can help.
Okay, I will do it now. Alex, do the posing again. We take it one more time. Let's do it. But yeah, let me get the words out first. Okay. Please, okay, get ready. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I've taken the picture. Okay. Tasha, can you unshare it? Okay. I would like to everyone here, please turn on your camera and say thank you to Alexandre for a wonderful session tonight. And after that, we will go for a group photo. Everyone, please turn on your camera and unmute your mic and say thank you to Alex.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexander sir.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
We got new knowledge from you.
Merci beaucoup.
So everyone, keep your camera on. I will capture this moment. Get ready. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you, everyone. I would like to represent our Division G Director, Titin, to say thank you for your attendance tonight, for joining us. It's Sunday night and you still make the effort and join us. This means this workshop means a lot to all of you. And it matters most to Alex as well, as he put his time and effort to deliver this workshop to us. And remember his technique, the 6 hero technique. Imagine you are the hero. You are always the hero of story. So craft your story as your hero, how you go through your craft of your story. And remember, you are your story, you are your story, you are the hero, and make it a wonderful story and share it with us. Alex, do you have any feedback form for us to give feedback to you?
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'll put in my evaluation form again. It's a pleasure to be with you across the world. For me, it's Sunday morning, so my day is just starting. And if there were any other questions, when you fill in that evaluation form, there's a quick Zoom link. If you follow that, I'll be there in another Zoom room if you want to keep the conversation going.
So remember, click on the link. If you have feedback for Alex, share it with him. If any question, refer to him. I believe we all have a wonderful session tonight.